Paris was too busy.
Man.
He was over there with the pizza.
I definitely
Paris.
don't need more Prince Street
It's
pizza
not
in my
lipstick
life.
on us. It's or lip gloss. It's some
Did I
grease
get
on
some on my
lips.
suit?
Pizza.
So good.
All
I
right,
live
so
right around the corner from there, and
You go there all the time?
I'm there way too often.
It's okay.
So good.
You're a busy man, so you got to eat.
I know, but you can't stress eat.
Yeah, that's
stress
true.
eat that delicious pizza.
But you got a stressful job because you're talking Chicago politics, and it's always something popping off. That's really what your show should have been.
things.
Paris popping off.
Literally.
There you go. You're good with
I know, I'm
marketing
clever.
and alliteration.
So Paris on politics, I call him this every day. Every time I see him, I don't even use his last name because he's
Now-
always on politics. What are you working on now? What's going on in
Well, there's a
Chicago?
lot going on. I mean, we've really been covering what's happening with CPS, and I think if you're a parent or you have kids in CPS right now, it's a little concerning because they have a budget that's due. The board has to vote on it next week. And the CPS leaders presented the budget to the board and said, this is how we're going to close a $734 million budget gap. But 10 members on the board say we don't like this. 9 members on the board say this is cool. So if the 10 members win out and they reject this budget, we're in unprecedented territory where there's no budget for school and you could see a shutdown. And everyone says, well, we don't want to get there. And we can get into why there's these divisions, and it's very political.
So are there any alternative solutions then to keeping the schools from shutting down?
Yeah, well, the solution is you have to agree on a budget. The board is going to have to find a majority of people to agree here, or the CPS is going to have to go back. So if I could go back into the politics here, you have Mayor Brandon Johnson, you have the Chicago Teachers Union. They have really been pushing hard to take out some more borrowing. But folks on the other side are saying, the CPS can't afford this. There's so much borrowing, there's so much debt already, this is going to threaten the school system down the road. But the mayor is really adamant about this. Also, there's this tug of war over this $175 million retiree pension payment. Previous mayors have had the city pay for it. This mayor wants CPS to pay for it. By law, the city can pay for it. So because of that, we have this stalemate, and the mayor and CTU have really been hard pushing this. Now it's like a game of chicken now. Are they going to go to the brink where they're going to let schools shut down? Or are they going to flip one more member on the board to say, look, I know what the mayor wants here, but we can't let schools shut down. We have to pass a budget.
When we say schools shut down, we're not talking about right now, right? Because
Well, we could be again. They have to make this vote next Thursday, a week from today. If they fail to approve a budget for the school year, I don't understand where you get money to heave.
So we're talking this school year right now.
You won't have money to keep to pay teacher salaries.
Yeah.
I mean, and this is all self-inflicted. This isn't. The CPS leaders came forward with a plan that balances the budget. There is a budget. There is a plan. It's right now the board, because of politics, is not agreeing on this. Because Mayor Johnson is very involved and CTU is very involved. And we can go into, so why is it that they want CPS to do this borrowing and make this pension payment? Well, because the mayor has his own problems at the city. He has his own budget deficit. He doesn't want this extra payment from CPS that he has to make. The thing is, when the roles were reversed, when there were other mayors, Mayor Lightfoot, Brandon Johnson and the CTU took the opposite position. They said, no, the city should make this payment, not CPS. Now they've flipped because they're in power now. So I hope that's not too complicated, because like what parents need to know is there's a political stalemate happening here. It's not because usually schools shut down because the teachers are going to go on strike. Well, they're not going to do that because they have a contract. And there is a budget. There is a plan. It's just board members, for political reasons, not agreeing on it.
And how does the governor play into all of this?
That's a great question. I mean, because the CTU and Mayor Johnson keep saying the governor needs to push Springfield to give $1.6 billion more from the state that it quote unquote owes, which isn't exactly true. And the governor said yesterday again, that money's not there. Should we? Yeah, of course. But we have our own problems. We have transit problems. We have our own bills. The money just isn't there. And if you're going to give Chicago schools $1.6 billion, what about all the suburban schools? What about all the downstate? Money doesn't grow on trees here. And so it's kind of a paper tiger argument to say Springfield needs to come through and give us more money.
What are the possibilities here? How could this potentially play out?
Well, I interviewed a board member last night who said she hopes that the board members come together, and enough of them vote to approve this budget that's been presented to them, and then we avoid all the trouble. The year goes on, no problem.
Yeah.
No cuts, nothing like that. If they don't, then you could see a shutdown. And so it could play out in terms of maybe the mayor, maybe the school CPS people go back and reformulate their budget and do what the mayor wants. But the CPS CEO, Macklin King, who was picked by the mayor,
Yes.
she's who the mayor wanted, she broke with the mayor on this. She took the same position Pedro Martinez took, who was fired. And I asked the mayor, I said, like, when you've got so many people that are your allies getting in there, looking at the numbers, saying it's not a good idea to take out a big loan, then maybe why not listen to them and maybe change your position? And he doesn't want to answer that. He just keeps saying Springfield, more money from Springfield.
It's just interesting because he himself was a teacher,
He
right?
was, yeah.
He himself was part of CTU.
Right.
And seems to be very in cahoots still in some respects.
Very
or
much
has
so.
been
They
with
very
CTU.
much so operate politically together.
Yeah.
CTU is pretty much his political enforcement machine, his enforcement arm politically. They are in lockstep. And plus they have 10 board members that are also in lockstep with this sort of
Yes.
political movement. And that's why you see the stalemate. The 9 board members that think the budget is fine as presented are the ones that were not endorsed by CTU, or they were not appointed by the mayor. So there's this divide in the city of, like, you're with CTU and all their priorities, or you're not with them right now. And we're going to see this play out. And parents, you might get some mailers now in your mailbox if you live in Chicago saying, well, these board members are the bad ones and these are the good ones. And then another mailer will say, no, these board members are the good ones, these are the bad ones. Because there's this political drama playing out.
That's so interesting because it's not like they're not like up for vote. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So that's really interesting
Well,
that this would happen.
in 2026 is when we'll have a fully elected
Yeah.
school board, and they're all gearing up for that. And it really is, at the end of the day, control of the school district. Is it going to go more in line with what the Chicago Teachers Union wants, or is it going to go more in line with perhaps more moderate centrist folks want?
I think maybe like parents might also be wondering, okay, well, is it an obligation for the state to step in, or should CPS, fix this gap themselves?
Well, the governor has said, CPS, you have to fix this yourselves, which they are doing. The CPS leadership is doing. So you've got CPS, and all the people, and then you've got the Board of Education, which votes. It's like a board of directors at a company, and they have to approve these things. So CPS has come up with a balanced budget. It's just the board that needs to approve it. But yes, Pritzker said you need to solve these problems. You're not going to get a bailout from the state this year. Next year, we're going to try to increase funding for all school districts, but you're not going to get this windfall that CTU keeps saying is owed to CPS.
I think the way this shakes out and plays out really could impact when people go to the voting booth, especially some of those parents that have students within CPS. Because if I'm a parent, I'm a taxpayer, I'm upset if this goes down the way that it could.
And it's not even if you don't have kids in CPS. If you're a Chicago resident, you are paying 56% of your property taxes to CPS, to this system that has all this debt. So if they take on more debt, you as a taxpayer are responsible for all the interest that it's going to. So the board member last night told me what the mayor wants them to do is take out a $200 million loan. She said it will cost $400 million when all is said and done to pay that whole thing off. So it's like 100% interest, that's because, when you are way in debt already, you have a bad credit rating, which is what CPS has, you have to pay higher interest.
Right.
It's way more expensive to borrow money, obviously. If you have a bad credit score, it costs you much more money to borrow, and this is the situation CPS is in. Thus, you and I as taxpayers, we're on the hook for all of that. And that's why, yes, I think it's interesting if folks have kids in CPS, but also, even if you don't, it's like we're all, we all have a stake in how the school system turns out.
Well,
and it is tough. If you're a parent, you don't want all this disruption.
No, you don't.
You're sick of the teacher strikes and the budget problems, and you just want someone to cooler heads to prevail. And it's tough when politics is involved.
Well, it's also interesting that the taxes of everyday working Chicagoans could go up when Mayor Johnson has been essentially pushing for the rich to be taxed, but this wouldn't fall necessarily on all the
on
rich
everybody,
folks.
on the wage earners, everyone.
Absolutely.
Property taxes hurt, everybody, especially those that have lower incomes, and more of their income is paying their property tax. I will say, so if I could describe this whole pension payment, you pay into a pension system for your retirees. The logic behind having the city pay this is because the city has the ability by law to raise property taxes. They could come in and Mayor Johnson could say, I want to raise your property tax to $500 million. CPS does not have the ability to go in and say, we want to raise your property tax $200 million. They're bound by law. State law has it that there's a cap, that they kind of go up by inflation every year, but CPS can't go out and say, look, we're just going to have a big new property tax levy. They're not able to do that. So they're really hamstrung. And that's the argument for having maybe the city help out with some of these costs, even though the city has its own budget problems. I know this is getting really weedy, but
no, it's not. I think I
It's
understand
interesting.
exactly
I'm learning
what
a
you're
lot.
saying.
Yeah, I'm
well,
really
it's
learning
good.
a
It's
lot.
good. Chicago, if you're a homeowner in Chicago, these are things you should pay attention to, because this is like you open up your property tax bill, and this is a big chunk of it.
Yes, it is.
Going into the system, and people are making decisions with your property tax money that is meant to educate children, and they're saying, well, we're gonna borrow more, but then you have to pay that back as the taxpayer. So this is why the school board elections are going to be very important.
Well, you said that Johnson could actually pay the money, essentially the administration, the city.
The city could pay that money, right?
If they do that, what does that mean then for the city's budget?
It means $175 million bigger of a hole that it has to shut. And again, it's not good, but Johnson, who did promise he wouldn't hike property taxes, he does have the ability to go to city council and say, look, we have no choice. We have to hike property taxes to pay for all of this. City council doesn't want to do that. But when you look at the mayor, he's under enormous pressure to make big cuts here because the city spending has grown like this. So the other part of your property tax bill, you're looking at city leaders that have spent more and more and more and more every year, and what are you getting for that? Are you getting good, clean streets? Are you getting better services? I don't know. And so there's a lot of aldermen saying we need to look at some real big wholesale restructuring and cuts before we talk about taxing more. But the CTU and Mayor Johnson, they are very progressive. They believe in taxing and having a big government safety net. So the voters are going to decide now which way do we want to go. Do we agree that maybe we should all pay more taxes, but let's have them responsibly administer our tax money? Or are they going to vote for someone that says let's make huge giant cuts, because spending's gotten out of control?
I think the average Illinoisan that I've heard from is sick of taxes.
Yeah, I think they are.
They're overly taxed, and they are.
And they've got their energy bills that are also going up, and insurance bills that are really high. But you also look at all the money that does, CPS, what is it, like $30,000 per student?
Correct.
It's a lot of money here in this school district compared to other school districts.
Sure.
Teachers are among the highest paid, if not the highest paid, of any big city in America. And the criticism is, well, what are we getting for this? We're already spending so much, but the results aren't so good.
Right. When you look at test scores,
when you look
et
at
cetera.
test scores.
Correct.
And that's what all these elected school races are going to be about. Like, who has the better idea here to improve test scores, but then not say, let's just throw more money at the problem. And the CTU is kind of always about more money, more money, more money, which doesn't really exist right now.
Chicago gives you a story probably every minute of the day.
A million of them.
Not just.
Paris, we could probably have you on every 2 weeks and have like an hour-long conversation with you.
Especially if there's pizza, I'll be here today.
We know you like the pizza, trust me. You almost missed our segment here. But what else are you talking about on your show that maybe people would
all
be
right, so
interested
here's
in?
a fun one tonight. This Grant Park, or the Chicago Park District, has put forth these big grand plans about redoing Grant Park.
Yes.
In the future. And just if cost weren't an objective, what would we want Grant Park to look like? So the big thing is like having continuity from the park to the lakefront. So capping Lakeshore Drive, maybe burying it, it'll cost billions of dollars. But so there are these designs that have come out, and we're going to kind of dig into them a little bit.
Are they realistic? Because we've talked to, I think it was Block Club Chicago about this, Mac Lederman. Is this even realistic? Because this has come up before. This was not the first time.
Financially, probably not, given all the stuff we're talking about right now. But, you know, Millennium Park, where there was a will, there was a way, and it happened. And Mayor Daley got lots of foundations and corporations to help pay. But, you know, it starts with a vision. You know, whether it's realistic or not, we have to envision, what do we want this park to look like? Because it is kind of boxing below its weight class. It's like, because you have all these roads cutting through it.
It's true.
It's not like Central Park, New York, where it's like you can kind of get lost in the park and, you know, lost in the woods. And I think there are folks that really would like to see Grant Park become something like that. And so you'd have to like close off the streets and cap Lakeshore Drive. And so we're going to dig into that. That's a fun one.
I will say this though. I know. So this is tonight's show.
Yeah.
I will say this, and somebody may get mad, but I personally think our parks looks better than New York.
I think the totality.
I think so too.
Yeah, I don't think it's all that. You know, when I go to New York, I'm like, it's nice, but I mean,
I don't know. I was
that's
walking
really
through
nice
Central
here.
Park, and there's like this part called the Bramble or whatever, and it's like this forest, and it's like hilly forest, and you're like you're in Montana
the middle
or
of
something. It's so cool. It's so cool, and no question, like I like our lakefront.
Yeah.
They don't have anything like our lakefront.
No, nothing like it.
They don't.
Yeah.
Okay, we're getting a
Chicago's where
hard
it's
wrap.
at.
Okay.
We only have like 20 seconds of Paris, but thank you so much
I
for
want
coming
you to
on.
come back.
No, honestly, we should have
I
you
love
on
talking
once a
politics.
week. Once a week, Paris. We should
Paris
honestly
on
have you back
politics.
because I learned a lot today. I know our audience did too.
And
What
you're
time is your show?
Taxpayer.
Yes,
Both of
we
you
are.
What time is your show?
30 tonight.
Okay.
9:30 p.m.
Thanks for
Paris on
joining us.
politics. We'll see you tomorrow.